Good morning. It is 11 a.m. I'm Ben Shatliff. This is Ben Shatliff Online, live on YouTube, and then also being put onto links on Instagram, Twitter, as well as Facebook. And I will be doing some updates via TikTok as well as the day goes on. As it stands at the moment, there's not much more news than what we've had at 10 a.m. this morning, but I just want to explain about a couple of areas which I just want to keep an eye on as these counts are getting underway here in Greater Manchester. Obviously, Bury and keeping a massive eye. That's been there for the whole of these broadcasts over the last 13 hours. But I also just want to take a look at Moston in Greater Manchester, part of Manchester City Council. This is in no way whatsoever any kind of a prediction as to what I think happens there. I would imagine that Labour will hold on the seat without any kind of seismic disaster or anything like that. But I have noticed over the last couple of months or so that the Communist candidate who actually I was approached by one of their colleagues when I was at the Ukraine rally a few weeks ago, and this Communist candidate has actually been there. Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to say they are going to make any major difference at all, but I just want to see what the size of that vote potentially could be. So, as I say, I'm not showing any allegiance at all whatsoever to any political party. I'm just saying it's just going to be interesting just to see what happens there. There is a Communist candidate standing in the Bess's ward in Bury as well. Someone that used to be a member of the Labour Party. So that's just watching a couple of areas to see what does happen. Now, for those that aren't already aware of the prediction, I'm not going to keep going on about the prediction. Obviously, when we start getting results coming in from Bury, then it will be a lot easier to see how things do go ahead. I just want to remind people that may not have seen this because it was on my other platform as to some of the thoughts about what could potentially be happening in Bury. Ramsbottom was Conservative, has gone to Labour over recent years. He's definitely one to watch. Could Labour start picking things up? It's one of the ones where I said I think that Conservatives will gain a seat there. North Manor is one of the safest Conservative seats throughout the United Kingdom. If Labour were to actually do something there, then that would be an interesting scenario. I'm just thinking about it. I'm not sure if Labour do actually have a candidate there, so I'm just my knowledge there might just be out of touch there, and I do apologise. Tottington is usually Conservative, but there is an independent, Yvonne Wright, who has been a Conservative councillor, who's been a councillor for 20 years. She is standing as an independent, so I'm predicting that Yvonne will win Tottington. We'll find out very soon. Elton, Labour, Conservative, Labour went Conservative last year in the local elections, and whenever there is a general election, the Conservatives tend to win there. It's not a general election, but of course it's an all-out election. I'm predicting Conservatives will take one seat there, but Labour will have the other two. The same for Moorside. That's been Conservative, Labour over almost the last 20 years, last 18 years or so. But I am predicting that Moorside, that the seat will go to Conservatives there. So 2 Labour, one Conservative. Bury East, usually rock solid Labour. I can't see any reason as to why that should change. So I still think there's 3 seats there for Labour. Bury West, formerly known as Church Ward, that has always been, most of the time, it has been Conservative. It's been Labour quite some time ago. I don't see any change there. So there's 3 seats for Conservative. Red Vales, Conservative, Labour, Labour. I think there'll be 2 seats for Labour, 1 seat for the Conservatives in Red Vales. Don't forget, it's all out elections, and going off how some of these results have been in the past as well, and how looking at last year's results as well. Unsworth again, that's been Labour, Conservative, Labour, all kinds of different stuff. I think Labour will be 2 seats for Labour, 1 seat for the Conservative. Bess's, rock solid Labour, I don't think there'd be any concern for Labour in Brexit. You never know with these things. Okay, right. Pilkington Park, Labour, Conservative, Labour, but back to Conservative over recent years. I don't think the Conservatives need to worry about Pilkington Park. So there's 3 seats for Conservatives there. Prestwich, where I live. Right, okay. Years ago was Conservative in different parts of it. Then Labour, Lib Dem, the Liberal Democrats had all 9 seats in Prestwich after the 2008 local elections, but then in 2010, 1 seat was won by Labour essentially. My prediction for Prestwich is as follows, because it has been a Lib Dem stronghold in certain parts, such as Holyrood, which is where I live. I'm predicting that the Liberal Democrats will get 2 seats in Holyrood, Labour will get the other. I'm predicting, as far as Cheshire is concerned, that Labour will get all 3, which they do currently have anyway. There was a Conservative that's not a candidate out for Labour back in 2016, but Labour managed to get that back last year. So I can't see a change there. That is after the intervention just over a week ago of our former MP and also a good friend of mine, Ivan Lewis, when he was asking everyone to vote Labour. So I think that might have changed, because initially I was going to put Conservatives as having one in Sedgley. St Mary's, I think Labour will have 2 and the Liberal Democrats will have the other. That is exactly as it stands after last year's Liberal elections as well. These could all alter, but the big one, this is where also, because Prestwich is one of the big areas, don't get me wrong, but also a massive change for the council could be happening here in Radcliffe. Now, Radcliffe, all of those, when I was first involved in politics, Labour had all 3 seats in Radcliffe, no issue whatsoever. But then they started some of the Radcliffe East and Radcliffe North going to the Conservatives. Radcliffe West remained solid Labour. But over recent years, with the new group which is called Radcliffe First, looking at all the various different local issues, Radcliffe East have Radcliffe First candidates, and so do Radcliffe West. So with these local elections, I am predicting that the Conservatives will continue to hold on to the new seat of Radcliffe North and Gainsborough, and I am predicting that Radcliffe East and Radcliffe First will both go to Radcliffe First, which means there'll be no Labour councillors in Radcliffe. So then you put everything together, and that's where my prediction comes in. At the moment, Labour are overall control. They are the leading group. With my predictions, Labour will have 22 seats, the Conservatives will have 19, Radcliffe First will then be the third party with 6, the Liberal Democrats will have 3, and there'll be 1 seat for the Independents, the one right there in Tottington. What does that then mean for the people of Bury? People like myself, as an example, because I am obviously a voter in Bury. What does that mean? No overall control. That is then when decisions would have to be made. Labour could still run the council with 22 seats, but it would be the other parties who would then have to make a decision. Because what they could do, they could decide to help the Conservatives with an overall majority. Because the benchmark to actually get overall control of the council is 26. So therefore, would Radcliffe First help the Conservatives? I'm not saying they would, I'm just saying as an example, because don't forget, if someone decides to help somebody in any kind of a coalition, then that means then that they would have to have something to obviously help their town. So the question is, would a coalition then with the other parties, Radcliffe First, the Liberal Democrats, the Independents if I'm right, if that stronghold then to reach the barrier of more than 26, because even though my maths isn't always necessarily the best, you've got 19 plus 6, you've then got 25. With the Liberal Democrats, 29, and then potentially with a independent, not saying this will happen, I'm just looking at different scenarios, you've then got, it could then be 30, which then means the oppositions would have an overall majority of 8 compared to Labour on 22. But could it then go the other way? Whereas the Liberal Democrats, if they were to help Labour, I'm not saying that they would do, I'm just saying the various different scenarios, that would then give it to 25, and then with the Independent, put it to 26. It's amazing how these things work out. This is a prediction. I'm not saying that is definitely going to happen. I've been right in the past with some of my predictions. This is probably one of the biggest challenges to see if this is right. This is just going off how things are. So it's going to be a very, very interesting few hours ahead. So that is the demographics of what happens for the last 20 years or so here in Bury. Let's see what happens over the next few hours. I will be back live on some device, either Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. At the moment, I'm learning how to use some of these at midday today. See if we get any more results then. And of course, thank you to any candidate who has been messaging. Quite a few people messaging me about different predictions and how things have been going, which has been fantastic. Please keep it going. If I don't respond straight away, it's because I'm just working certain stuff out. But I'll be here all day, not disappearing. But thank you all very, very much indeed for the moment. Take care.